Asterisk the digital clock above Gate B12 flickered toward midnight as weary passengers shuffled past the counter, eager to board the last flight to New York. Among them stood two sisters, Zora and Lena, identical twins with matching carry-ons and sweaters their mother had carefully chosen for this trip. Their excitement still glowed, even at this late hour. A trip to visit family and see the city that had always been described to them as the place where dreams could start. Zora, the more outgoing of the two, slid both boarding passes across the counter with a hopeful smile. The gate agent glanced down, scanned the first pass, and a soft green light confirmed approval. She tried the second. A red flash. A harsh beep. The agent's expression hardened instantly. "There's a problem with this ticket," she said flatly, sliding the pass back toward the 11-year-old. "You can't board." The words landed heavy, echoing in a space that suddenly felt much larger than it had moments before. Around them, other passengers, mostly adults, mostly white, continued through without so much as a glance at their IDs. The twins stood frozen, a mix of confusion and embarrassment coloring their faces. They had done everything right. Their father had booked their seats, packed their folder neatly with confirmations, and walked them to the gate himself. Lena clutched her sister's sleeve. "But our dad said," she started, her voice small. The agent cut her off, tone sharper now. "The system says there's no seat. You'll have to wait." It was a sentence that felt less like procedure and more like dismissal. Their legitimate presence at the counter had somehow been reduced to a problem. What unfolded in the next few minutes would not only reveal the truth about who their father was, but would also strike at the heart of a deeper issue. Why so many black travelers find their rights questioned, even when their papers are in order. Before we continue, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt singled out when you did nothing wrong? Comment yes, if you relate. The waiting area around Gate B12 carried the heavy quiet of a late-night terminal. Rolling suitcases thudded against the tile, boarding announcements droned overhead, and tired families clutched fast food bags on their way to the jet bridge. For most travelers, this was just another routine delay at the end of a long day. For Zora and Lena, though, the ordinary rhythm of the airport had already shifted. Agent Davies tapped at her keyboard with exaggerated patience, sighing as if the girl's presence itself was an inconvenience. "I told you," she muttered, eyes never lifting from the screen. The system flagged a discrepancy. "You don't have a seat. Step aside." The words stung more than the rejection itself. Step aside. At 11 years old, they had been taught respect, order, and politeness. Their father had explained that traveling required composure. Follow directions, carry your documents neatly, keep calm. Yet here they were, treated like intruders in a place where they had every right to stand. Zora pointed at the folder, her voice trembling but firm. "Our tickets are right here." They were confirmed. The agent's lips thinned. "Confirmation or not, the system says no. You'll need to wait until it's resolved." She turned abruptly to greet the next traveler, her tone brightening. Instantly for a white businessman who stepped up behind the twins. His boarding pass beeped green, and he was waved through with a friendly "have a good flight." The contrast was brutal. One child denied. One man, unquestioned, as the line moved, more passengers were processed without delay. A family with sleepy toddlers, a woman carrying a designer handbag, two college students laughing over their phones, all ushered through while the twins stood to the side, their documents clutched tightly, their sense of excitement draining. Away, Lena lowered her eyes, whispering, "Why us?" Her sister didn't answer. She couldn't. What unfolded was more than a clerical error. The system error had become a shield, a way for the airline to justify denying access without stating a reason. Policies written to handle genuine problems had been twisted into barriers, allowing an employee's bias to masquerade as procedure. Words like discrepancy and security concern carried weight, yet they were vague enough to end any argument before it began. Zora tried once more, voice softer now. "Can we speak to a supervisor?" The agent snapped back. "Supervisors are busy. You'll wait." Next, the sting wasn't just in being blocked. It was in being made small, invisible in a place where everyone else moved freely. The girls, once glowing with anticipation, now felt their confidence slipping into quiet fear. "Before we continue, let me ask, If you've ever been told the system says no without explanation, hit the like button. Lena's grip tightened on her sister's sleeve, her eyes brimming with tears. The terminal buzzed with the sound of boarding groups being called, yet for the twins, time seemed frozen. Zora's hand moved slowly toward her backpack, where the phone their father insisted stay charged waited. He had told them only to call in an emergency. This felt like one. She dialed. When his deep, steady voice answered, Zora's words tumbled out. Dad, they won't let us board. The agent says there's a system error. Hand her the phone. Zora, came the calm reply. His tone was even, but behind it lay a weight of certainty that steadied her trembling. Agent Davies frowned, reluctant, but finally took the phone with a dismissive roll of her eyes. Yes? This is the gate. There's a problem with your children's tickets. The system isn't accepting one of them. The voice on the line didn't rise. It didn't need to. My name is Captain Rexford Rolle. I own Western Air. A pause. You are denying boarding to my daughters. The agent's jaw went slack. Her eyes flicked from the phone to the girls and back again, color draining from her face. Passengers nearby continued walking past, unaware of the quiet storm breaking. At the counter, see Captain Rolle. She stammered, the authority in his name cutting through her earlier arrogance. Her fingers shook as she scanned the boarding pass again. This time, the machine chirped green without hesitation. The discrepancy had vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. She cleared her throat, forcing a brittle smile. Must have been a reset in the system. They're cleared to board now. The twins exchanged glances, relief mixed with confusion. Their father wasn't just a protective parent at home. He was a figure who had carved out space in an industry where black ownership was rare, almost unthinkable. His influence carried enough weight to shift an entire interaction. Yet even as the girls gathered their passes, a harder truth lingered. If their father's name hadn't held power, would the outcome have been different? For countless others without such protection, the so-called system errors are not corrected with a phone call. What happened to Zora and Lena was not an isolated mishap, nor was it simply a technical error corrected at the last moment. Their ordeal is part of a long, documented pattern, a reality often described by those who have lived it as flying while black. In 2024, 8 black men boarded an American Airlines flight, only to be removed after staff cited a vague complaint about body odor. None of the men knew each other. None had been accused directly. Yet the airline grouped them together and escorted them off the plane. Later, when questioned, an airline representative admitted she did not disagree that race had played a role. The men eventually reached a settlement, but the humiliation was permanent, their dignity traded for an unfounded justification. Another case involved a woman known publicly as Magic. She had a confirmed first-class seat, yet her flight unraveled. When a white male passenger told crew members he felt threatened after she brushed past his arm to reach her overhead bag. Without questioning the credibility of his discomfort, staff sided with him. Magic was escorted off the flight. She recalled later that one airline employee told her bluntly, "It's a race thing." These stories are not relics of a less enlightened era. They continue to unfold in the present, often shielded by the language of policy and procedure. Perhaps the most striking example is the Transportation Security Administration's Behavior Detection Program. Marketed as a way to identify suspicious travelers, the program was found, through ACLU investigations and internal documents, to be unreliable and heavily biased. Agents flagged travelers based on appearance and cultural expression more than any genuine threat. In practice, it became another tool for racial and religious profiling, hidden under the cover of security. When we look at Zora and Lena's experience through this lens, the discrepancy stamped on their boarding pass takes on a sharper meaning. It wasn't just a computer glitch. It was another version of the same pattern, a catch-all term, that allows an airline employee to deny access without offering proof. This reliance on vagueness is not accidental. Words like system error, security concern, or passenger comfort grant staff unchecked authority while shielding companies from accountability. They create a gray zone where bias can operate freely, dressed up as neutral enforcement of rules. The twins' boarding passes were eventually restored because of who their father was. But countless others, lacking that protection, are left stranded, embarrassed, or criminalized. The pattern is clear. In an industry built on schedules and systems, subjectivity remains a weapon, one too often aimed at black travelers. The name Rexford Rolle carried weight far beyond a boarding gate. To most, he was a symbol of possibility. A man who had carved his place in the skies as the head of Western Air, one of the rare black-owned carriers in modern aviation. To Zora and Lena, though, he was simply Dad, the man who reminded them to keep their folders neat, keep their phones charged, and trust that preparation would carry them through. The irony was brutal. His daughters were almost barred from boarding in the very industry he had helped to reshape. An industry where his decisions impacted routes, partnerships, and international contracts. Yet where two children bearing his name could still be treated as outsiders. Rexford's story mirrors a long line of black pioneers who turned exclusion into opportunity. Captain Rexford Rolle, founder of Western Air, defied expectations to build one of the largest black-owned airlines in the Western Hemisphere. Madam C.J. Walker, often celebrated as the first self-made black woman millionaire, transformed her business success into a movement for community upliftment. Robert F. Smith, one of the most prominent black financiers, famously paid off the student debt of an entire Morehouse graduating class, embodying how wealth and leadership can ripple outward to change lives. Each of these figures represents more than personal success. They stand as proof that black excellence can flourish in spaces designed to keep it out. Rexford Rolle belonged to this lineage, a man whose achievements did not just open doors but built new ones. Yet the scene at Gate B12 exposed a harsh truth. His influence could safeguard his daughters in that moment, but it also underscored the fragility of progress. Their boarding passes only turned green because of who their father was. That protection, powerful as it seemed, is not available to most. For every family with a Rexford Rolle to call, there are countless others without that safety net. Their experiences end not with a quick phone call, but with tears, missed flights, complaints brushed aside, or legal battles that drag on for years. The exception proves the rule. Black achievement can bend the outcome in an individual case, but it does not dismantle the system that creates these injustices in the first place. The Gate incident with Zora and Lena didn't happen in a vacuum. It reflects a deeper culture within aviation, one where unconscious bias shapes who is welcomed and who is questioned. Research confirms what many black travelers have long understood. That a study conducted at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University revealed a stark pattern. When participants were shown photographs of candidates for aviation roles, they overwhelmingly chose white men for positions such as pilot or co-pilot. By contrast, individuals of African descent were far more likely to be associated with service roles, like ground crew or baggage handlers. The conclusion was unavoidable. Many people still carry a deeply embedded perception of who belongs in positions of authority and who does not. This bias doesn't stay confined to hiring. It shows up at gates, on flights, and in the way staff interpret passenger behavior. A black traveler asking a routine question can be labeled aggressive, while the same behavior from a white passenger is considered normal. A black child's boarding pass showing an error becomes grounds for suspicion, while others are waved through without issue. Airlines often claim to address these disparities through training programs. But most of those sessions focus on de-escalation after conflict has already begun. They teach staff how to calm a situation once a passenger is upset, rather than addressing the root of why that passenger was singled out in the first place. In other words, the harm is already done by the time the training is applied. The hypocrisy runs even deeper. Public statements and diversity pledges flood social media feeds whenever incidents make headlines. Companies publish glossy reports celebrating inclusion, yet these same companies are caught denying boarding to passengers for reasons so vague they cannot withstand scrutiny. Words like system error and security protocol become shields, protecting corporations from accountability while leaving black passengers vulnerable. This contradiction forces a hard question. Are airlines truly committed to equity, or are they more invested in protecting their image? When policies allow vague justifications to outweigh clear rights, the message is unmistakable. Image comes first, dignity second. That's why the story of Zora and Lena resonates beyond one gate. Their experience reflects an industry-wide problem One that policies and press releases alone cannot fix the D. Oh, you think airlines should face legal penalties for incidents like this? Comment your thoughts. The story of Zora and Lena's near denial at Gate B12 is not just an isolated incident. It is part of a much larger narrative, one rooted in a history of defiance, excellence, and perseverance in the face of systemic barriers. Their father, Rexford Rolle, belongs to this lineage of trailblazers. Take Bessie Coleman, for instance. In the early 20th century, at a time when black people were often excluded from flight schools, Coleman traveled to France to earn her pilot's license. She became the first African-American woman to hold an international flying license, and upon her return, she used her platform to challenge racial segregation in aviation, performing at air shows and inspiring countless others to follow their dreams in the skies. Cornelius Coffey and Willa Brown also left an indelible mark on aviation history. After being denied entry to a flight school because of their race, the couple founded the first black-owned flight school in the United States. Through their efforts, they trained hundreds of pilots, breaking barriers and proving that black excellence could rise above the restrictions imposed by segregation. Perhaps most famously, the Tuskegee Airmen, a group of black pilots who served during World War II, proved their exceptional skill and courage despite being segregated and overlooked by the military. Their contributions changed the face of aviation, and their achievements became a testament to the power of resilience in the face of overwhelming adversity. Rexford Rolle is part of this powerful lineage. As a black man who founded his own airline, in an industry that was once closed off to people like him, he is a modern skybreaker. His success is not just personal achievement. It is the continuation of a tradition that has always fought to create space in places that once denied entry. But even skybreakers cannot shield their children from turbulence on the ground. Zora and Lena's experience is proof that no amount of success, even one rooted in the groundbreaking work of those who came before, can guarantee immunity from the biases that still exist in the air and on the tarmac. When Zora and Lena finally stepped onto the jet bridge, their shoulders felt heavier than their small carry-ons. They should have been buzzing with excitement, thrilled about their upcoming trip. Instead, the glow of anticipation had dimmed. They walked in silence, boarding passes clutched tightly, carrying the weight of what they had just endured there. Seats were restored, but the damage was already done. The lesson they absorbed that night was not about travel logistics. It was about how easily their legitimacy could be questioned, how quickly joy could be stripped away, and how their presence could still be framed as a problem. Even with everything in order, their experience is not theirs alone. It mirrors the ongoing reality faced by black passengers across the United States and beyond. Too often, subjective language, system error, security concern, or passenger discomfort is used to mask the real issue: bias. Behind every vague justification is a person forced to navigate public humiliation and private pain. This is why corporate responsibility must extend further than public apologies and training modules. For airlines, it is not enough to stage sessions that teach staff how to calm angry customers. The question is why those customers were targeted in the first place. Real accountability means addressing hiring practices, revising vague policies, tracking discriminatory incidents, and enforcing consequences when bias is uncovered. Anything less is performance without progress. The story of two young girls nearly denied their flight despite having every right to board is more than a narrative about a single gate agent or a single night. It is an allegory for the fragility of dignity when systems are allowed to operate without oversight. It is also a reminder that corporate promises mean little until passengers can travel without carrying the quiet fear of being singled out. Would you keep supporting an airline caught in repeated racial bias cases? Let us know below. The sky should belong to everyone. But until systemic bias is dismantled, too many black travelers will continue to carry an unspoken ticket, one stamped with suspicion.